Look into my eyes. When you see me on a show, when you see these fans, you know you've got the best in the damn world.
This is the Wrestling Matters podcast where we stand up for professional wrestling.
Here we fucking go!
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change!
Professional wrestling! This is it! This is us standing up! Yes! 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 Yes!
That's 13-14!
Dina, I am the best in the world.
Cause that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another installment of the Wrestling Matters podcast. How are we all doing? Hope you guys are well. And yeah, interesting week in the world of professional wrestling. Hope you guys are well. Today's show is going to be Raw, Smackdown, NXT, TNA, Ring of Honor, if I can find it. Lexa Rose, another part of the Lexa Rose interview. Also, 10 things they want you to forget, WWE that is, once you forget about Ric Flar according to Walk Culture. I'll go through that later on in the podcast. I might throw another one in, depending on the time and everything, but I might throw another one in. So look out for that. That's coming at the end of towards the end of the podcast as well. Also, I'm going to talk about a few things as well. And I might throw Survivor Series in there too. Yeah. Talk about Survivor Series. I might even talk about Survivor Series straight away. But that is all to come on the podcast. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this. You can listen to this podcast on AJW Wrestling Matters, the YouTube channel. Download it for free on SoundCloud. SoundCloud.com/wrestling_matters_podcast. Also check it out on the Swerve Network, Max Wrestling, Sunday Segway, Offshoot Radio, Evan McCabe, plus Max Wrestling's new thing that they're doing as well. Be sure to check it out each and every week, guys. You know what it's about. You know it makes sense. And you know, take it from me, you will not be disappointed. Okay? You will not be disappointed. Now, also, big shout out to all my partners as well. OSW TV, Raging Falcon, the list goes on and on. You know who you are. Shout out to Rick Dara as well from Talk Brunch. I hope to be working with you very, very soon and that. I know you're very busy yourself, so am I. But hopefully we can get things going in our little work relationship very soon as well, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, guys, a huge shout out to Mystery Island, because over the weekend, as this is going out on Mondays, over the weekend they did their very first wrestling show. Yay! The Mystery Island is a wrestling promotion, and yeah, hope it all went well, guys. Hope it all went well. If you haven't checked it out, like I say, facebook.com/backtotheisland for more information on that. The Mystery Island Facebook page. I would imagine it's also for the wrestling shows as well. So be sure to check that out. Facebook.com/backtotheisland. Now, also, Twitter at WM Podcast as well. Facebook.com/WM Podcast as well. Now, ladies and gents, boys and girls, I've got a few things I need to talk about, or I would like to talk about. You know, people are having a go about Goldberg, the whole Goldberg situation with Brock Lesnar. Now, people like it. I've seen the videos, the reactions to it. People like it. People don't. People think it's the worst thing ever. People think it's a crock of shit. I disagree, to be honest, with that. I actually enjoyed it, because what I got from it was the old Goldberg. Not the WWE Goldberg. It was truly the old Goldberg. WWE booked him like the old WCW Goldberg. And he used to come out kicking people's rear ends in and that. They did it, I believe, because he had an injury. When he was beating up all the security guards on Raw, he twerked his shoulder. I'll talk about that later on as well. Yeah, I enjoyed it because it's the old Goldberg. It was the old WCW Goldberg, not the WWE's Goldberg, so to speak. What's next for him? We all know he's going to be in the wrestling, the Royal Rumble match, January 29th. I've also been told as well, that January 29th, Brock Lesnar is going to be in the Rumble too. He's penciled in for the Rumble match as well. So maybe they're going to be building something towards that. You know, maybe this Goldberg-Brock Lesnar match ain't over yet. Maybe we're going to see a Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. You know, unlike the scheduled match that they're going to take place with Brock Lesnar and Shane McMahon, based off what happened at Survivor Series. So, yeah, January 29th. We haven't even reached January yet, and it already sounds interesting. Speaking of the Royal Rumble, last week on the podcast, I mentioned about The Undertaker and AJ Styles. The talks are underway with that match, because it seems that they want, WWE that is, Undertaker wants to remind everybody, in case you missed last week's podcast or you didn't listen to last week's podcast, and if you didn't, why not? Undertaker versus AJ Styles, one-on-one for the championship at Royal Rumble, and I'm guessing that's going to lead in, sorry I got distracted there a little bit, I'm guessing that's going to lead into what's going to take place at WrestleMania. Because what WWE want is Undertaker versus John Cena at WrestleMania. And I'm guessing that would be for the championship. I don't know how that would work out. You know, would John Cena win the Royal Rumble match to get that shot at WrestleMania? Or would he go to Fastlane and qualify to face the Undertaker at Mania? You know, like they used to do back in the day with, you know, certain person wins the Royal Rumble match, they go on to face the champion at WrestleMania, and then the other branch champion that have a match at, say, I don't know, No Way Out, I guess, and then whoever wins that will go into WrestleMania. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. At the end of the day, guys, you're probably smashing the TVs or whatever it is you're listening to this on. You're probably smashing it and thinking, you know, why is this going down, Undertaker and John Cena? Whether you like it or not, guys, you know John Cena is going to equal Ric Flair's record. It's a done deal. You know it's going to happen. It's just a case of when. However, there's a possibility that this might not take place, from what I've read at least, because it seems that WWE, Vince McMahon in particular, John Cena is not too happy with him. John Cena is not too happy with the guy. Because we all know John Cena is the money man. He is. Just no bones about it. He is the money guy. You know, he's the money man. He makes the merchandise, yada, yada, yada. And he probably gets paid a shit ton of money. But it seems that Goldberg and Brock Lesnar were getting paid a certain amount of money, probably more than John Cena, for their match at Survivor Series. I think Brock got a hell of a payday. And so did Goldberg, of course. I don't think John Cena is very happy with that. I don't think John Cena is very happy with Goldberg coming back. It's nothing on Goldberg, but he thinks that it's taking the spotlight away from him as well. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But it seems that WWE and John Cena and Vince McMahon are not seeing eye to eye at the moment. Will that get sorted out? Will that get sorted out and settled in? Remains to be seen. But all in all, guys, it's very interesting to see what is going down. Now, I'm going to talk quickly about Survivor Series. Might as well do a little review here as well. Yeah, I've already talked about the Goldberg situation. I actually like the Goldberg match and how that was booked and everything. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and it's good to see the WCW Goldberg as well. That's which make it good. What's the fallout from that? Who knows? Remains to be, it's all remain to be seen at the end of the day. But like I say, I enjoyed it because it shocked the world, and the reaction from it was just great. No question about that. I always go down. I always miss what I want. I always miss the bit that I want, man. Anyway, it seems, ladies and gents, right? TJ Perkins, Rich Swann, Noam Dar defeat Tony Nese, Drew Gulak, and Davari's little brother. The one, I think that was on the pre-show as well. I didn't see the pre-show. Kane beats Luke Harper on the pre-show. And then it went to the pay-per-view, which saw Team Raw defeat Team Smackdown in a 5-on-5 traditional Women's Survivor Series match. Now, that was based off, again, I think I called this in the predictions podcast that I did. It was based on elimination with Alexa Rose. Is it Alexa Rose? Oh, Alexa Bliss, sorry. Alexa Rose, where did I get that from? Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch's feud for the women's title. I said something like that would happen. And obviously Team Raw took advantage of it. All in all, it was a good little match as well. The 10-on-10 Survivor Series tag team match surprisingly ended with Cesaro and Sheamus being the sole survivors, which was very strange, something I didn't expect, but hey, it was what it was, man. And they got a tag title shot the following night on Raw, which I'll talk about later on. Brian Kendrick beats Kalisto, and the Cruiserweight title is still on Raw, as well as Miz keeping the Intercontinental Championship on SmackDown, which is, to be honest with you, looking back in retrospect after the rumors I heard, thankfully, that took place. Quite frankly, thankfully that took place. Kalisto And Baron Corbin's feud still is existing, quite frankly. And no doubt there'll be a match with them too at probably TLC. I'm guessing the pre-show. Fuck's sake. So, yeah, all in all, it was good. And all in all is right, all that makes sense in the world, especially with the belts. And like I said, I've already talked about Goldberg and Lesnar. Team Smackdown Live defeats Team Raw in the 5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series elimination match. And those who Shield reunion as well, because during the match, Styles took advantage of what was taking place, and then Ambrose wanted to get revenge because he blamed Styles for getting eliminated, and it was basically about the WWE title from this point, despite what JBL says and all that. It was basically about the WWE Championship at this point, and Styles, they all grabbed on Styles, Ambrose grabbed on Styles, and it was a Shield reunion, and they put Styles through the announce table, and they got the cover. And Styles was eliminated. And it ended with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt becoming the sole survivors. Question is, ladies and gents, will they be the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions? More on that later on. All in all, guys, I liked Survivor Series. It wasn't the best Survivor Series I've ever seen. It wasn't the best pay-per-view I've ever seen. But it was alright. It was alright. Shocking moment at the end with Goldberg beating Lesnar. But, yeah, I had no complaints about it. The chaos that took place, you would expect that, considering there was a lot of teams on there that didn't even know what the hell was going on. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I've got no qualms with Survivor Series whatsoever, to be honest. I've got no qualms with it whatsoever. Like I say, it wasn't the best Survivor Series I've ever seen, but worked. You know, it was okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to call time on this part here. That was part 1 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. I'll be back in part 2 with Raw and SmackDown. So stay tuned. We've got a lot to get through on the podcast.
If you like the Wrestling Matters podcast, why not check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/WM podcast and like the page and show your support to the podcast that stands up for professional wrestling, the Wrestling Matters podcast. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans.
Welcome back to part 2, ladies and gentlemen, of the Wrestling Matters podcast. Yeah, it's Raw time, ladies and gents. Monday Night Raw, if I can find it, which I do. Monday Night Raw. Ladies and gents, the night, I believe, the night after Survivor Series. The night after Survivor Series, which saw the quick hits were, if it'll let me, yes. Goldberg declares himself for the Royal Rumble. That's right, he's going to be participating in the Rumble. New Day defeats Cesaro and Sheamus. Cedric Alexander beats Daivari. Rusev defeats Enzo Amore. Much to the dismay of Big Cass. I think there's something building there between them two. Luke Gallows and Kyle Anderson defeat the Golden Truth to become the number 1 contenders for the Raw Tag Team Championships and get their shot this coming, well, tonight, in fact. And if Luke Gallows and Kyle Anderson don't win, it's a joke. Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn all defeat Sami Zayn via match stoppage. Sasha Banks and Bayley defeat Raw Women's Champion Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax. Rich Swann defeats TJ Perkins and Noam Dar to become the number 1 contender for the Cruiserweight title and will get a shot on 205. And WWE Universal Champion versus Kevin Owens defeats Seth Rollins in a no disqualification match thanks to what was supposedly a barred Chris Jericho. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to get to one thing and one thing only. Now, it was during the Goldberg promo. I heard in the crowd, I'm sure Goldberg heard it as well, the "You Screwed Brett" chant. Now, it's not got nothing to do with Montreal. It's to do with what happened in WCW with the whole kick in the face from Starrcade, which cost basically Bret Hart his career. This is like the Montreal screw job. Move on. Cut the fuck out. Grow up and move on. Because even I'm getting sick of hearing it now. Every time Goldberg comes out, there's Bret Hart fans in the audience. You screw Bret. You screw Bret. And quite frankly, it's getting bloody childish. And I'm sick and tired of it. And like I said, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson go against the tag team champions tonight. And hopefully they will win. And if they don't, it's an absolute joke. But with that being said, guys, that's the end of Raw. And Raw was alright. I had no issues with it. Apart from that. But Raw was fine. Was it the best Raw? Probably not. But it was fine nonetheless. SmackDown. SmackDown saw the quick hits. AJ Styles challenged James Ellsworth to put his contract on the line in the ladder match. Intercontinental Champion Miz beats Kalisto with a little help from Baron Corbin. American Alpha overcome 5 tag teams in the tag team turmoil, but unfortunately it's not over. because next week, or this coming week on SmackDown, they face Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, and the winner gets a tag title shot at TLC. Becky Lynch beats Natalya and then gets attacked by Alexa Bliss. That's feud's not over, and they'll get a match at TLC. Baron Corbin beats Kane via disqualification. Kalisto got involved. James Ellsworth beats AJ Styles in a ladder match to win the SmackDown Live contract, and he is on SmackDown. And not only that, he will get a WWE World Championship match. Now, also, what took place on SmackDown as well. And by the way, thanks to Virgin for doing the updates while I was taping SmackDown and watching SmackDown as well. Virgin Media doing their stupid updates right when I'm in the middle of watching SmackDown. You fucking idiots. I don't know, I was just watching SmackDown and I watched the whole show, and then towards the Becky Lynch Natalya match, it cut off, and the next minute it's the updates. You pick your moments, don't you morons? Anyway, like I said, guys, AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, one-on-one. Despite the fact Dean Ambrose was meant to be bad, but James Ellsworth is now on SmackDown. AJ Styles will defend the title against Dean Ambrose, and then it'll probably be Undertaker at Royal Rumble. So we'll have to wait and see what happens now. I'm looking forward to this week on SmackDown, and it's going to be really, really interesting. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, can these two be a legit team? Guess we'll find out on SmackDown this week. But it seems that Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton are getting a push to be the next tag team champions. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And I believe TLC is this coming week as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on that. But it's going to be interesting nonetheless. And I cannot wait. So yeah, that wraps it up for SmackDown. It was alright. I liked it. No qualms about it this week as well. And you know what, guys? I'm going to wrap up part 2 there. Move into part 3, which part 3 will see NXT, TNA, and Ring of Honor. A very interesting Ring of Honor this week as well, and some news on Ring of Honor as well. One of the announced team is leaving. Which one? Tune in after the break. See you in a bit.
There's only one wrestling podcast that gives you honest, uncut opinions and the most unique trivia since WWE did The Weakest Link. And the only place you can hear the show-stealing podcast promo every single week.
Covering WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground. Max Wrestling Podcast is the place for you. Join myself, Evan Money Michaela, the Phoenix, and the Butcher, Sundays at 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time with your host, Danny Dangerously, on VOC Nation and the Swerve Talk Network.
Go to maxwrestling.wix.com/maxwrestling or follow us at maxwrestlinguk for more details.
Give in to the madness.
Be sure to check out the Wrestling Matters channel at www.youtube.com/AJW Wrestling Matters for my exclusive review series that I'm doing on WCPW, What Culture Pro Wrestling, brought to you by the good folks at whatculture.com. Each and every week I'll be reviewing their shows, whether it's loaded or their big upcoming shows as well, each and every week on their YouTube channel. Be sure to check out the Wrestling Matters channel for review shows each and every week. You can also download them for free on SoundCloud. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to part 3 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. Let's kick off with NXT. I'll get to Ring of Honor in a second. NXT sees. NXT kicked off with Rich Swann. Connor Reeves was interrupted by Sanity. Sanity gang up on No Way Jose. Ember Moon, Liv Morgan, and Aaliyah defeat Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, and Dara Benedito. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I apologize. But yeah, Sanity with features 2 monsters, the leader Eric Young and Nikki Gross, better known to everybody as Nikki Storm if you're an ICW and Indie Girl guy. Alexander Wolf, Sawyer Fulton, Nikki Gross, and Eric Young, the leader, comprise Sanity. This is going to be a big group, guys. A huge group, big group, and it's going to be great. No question about it. I'm loving it. They ganged up on Rich Swann and Connor Reeves, beat them up, and then beat the hell out of No Way Jose.
And then it was the 6-women's match at the end, which was very interesting indeed. And that wraps up Ring of Honor. NXT rather. Ring of Honor, however, oh joy. Ring of Honor, very interesting Ring of Honor this week, in my opinion, as it is every week, but it's a very interesting one this week. Because it kicked off with Kyle O'Reilly one-on-one with Silas Young. Very hard-hitting match. Even got its attention. Adam Cole's attention. He came out wanting to get a closer look and didn't like the fact that Kyle O'Reilly ended up winning. So, yeah, I mean, it was just a great hard-hitting match. And Kyle O'Reilly is proving himself to, and leading into what we all know, ladies and gentlemen, is going to happen at Final Battle, Friday night, December 2nd. I am predicting it right now. You are going to have a new Ring of Honor World Champion. It is built to that. If it doesn't go down, I'll be very surprised. But it's going to be built to that. There will be a new Ring of Honor World Champion. And his name will be Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly will be the Ring of Honor World Champion. Also, Dalton Castle and Colt Cabana got a win. Got their victory. After the match was very interesting. They beat, I'd say 2 jobbers, but there seemed to be 2 guys just looking to get a break in Ring of Honor. Experienced guys, but they were, very looking to get a break in Ring of Honor. These 2, they beat them. No, they made quick work of them. Beat them in about 30 seconds. And then after the match, Castle and Colt Cabana, they were talking in the ring, and Colt Cabana said we should split up. There's, nothing's working. And then they hugged it. They wanted, Castle wanted to hug it out. They went their separate ways. The tag team, in Cabana's words, wasn't working. And the next minute, Cabana kicks or knees Castle in the groin and does a heel turn. Turns on Castle. Then literally beats the hell out of him. Beats the hell out of his boys. And yeah, it went on from there. And bloodies him too. So it was just a different side of Colt Cabana. Which is very, very interesting. And in the 6-man tag team tournament, the semi-finals, the new kingdom advanced to the finals as well. So yeah, very interesting Ring of Honor. I can't wait to see this week's Ring of Honor, as well as seeing Final Battle, because it's going to be very interesting as well. The very match I'm looking forward to at Final Battle, and I will be watching it. Cody Rhodes, Jay Lethal. You heard it here first, guys. Also, one quick thing before I go to TNA. I found out this week that an announcer's leaving Ring of Honor. Steve Corino. Apparently, he is going to be finishing up Ring of Honor in December. And starting January 2017, he's going to be a trainer at WWE's NXT. Yeah, at the Performance Center. So, very interesting times for one, Mr. Corino. So, get used to hearing him on Ring of Honor, because he's going to be a trainer at the Performance Center. That should be very interesting for people who go there. Let me tell you, to have his experience and that. But in any event, TNA, 24th of the 11th, 16. The results are in. Team Go for Broke defeat Trevor Lee, Andrew Everett, and Marcia Rocket and Rockstar Spud and Decay in a 3-way elimination tag Team X Gold match, whatever the fuck that is, I don't know. EC3 defeats Eli Drake to retain his TNA Championship shot. Al Snow and Mahala Bashira defeat the Tribunal. Robbie E defeats Grado in a Turkey Suit Challenge match. And yes, there is a picture, I have seen it, of Grado wearing the turkey suit. Bram with DCC, 2 members of DCT, which is James Storm and Eddie Kingston, or as is now known, Kingston, Gordon Bennett, defeat Jeff Hardy in a no disqualification match as well. And I believe that was it. Just a Thanksgiving show this week, actually. So, and yes, the Hardys and all of that. The less said about that, the better. So, yeah, that about wraps it up for this part, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be back in part 4 with another installment now. We're going to play in the part 4 another installment of the Lexa Rose interview. Then I'll be back in part 5 with... You know what, I'm going to talk ICW in part 5. I'm going to talk about Fear and Loathing in part 5 as well. And then in part 6, I will do, hopefully, 1 or 2. I know I'm definitely going to do 1. Will I get 2 involved? I don't know. If not, I'll do that next week, but I'll definitely be talking about a top 10 from World Culture about Ric Flar. That will come in the final part. All still to come on the Wrestling Matters podcast. Be back in the tick.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kenny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shubs.
Yes! Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
Yeah, you definitely have to work for it. Nothing's like we said earlier on. Nothing's easy. Nothing is, trust me. If something was easy, if things were easy, I wouldn't be just doing this podcast that I'm doing right now, guys. Trust me. I've had to earn my stripes in my life. Believe you me. I like to think I wrote the book, or at least my interpretation of doing things the hard way, at least. Because trust me, that is all I've done in my life, as well. When I reached out to you to do this interview, yes, we had connections, and a fellow, Michael Larkin, his name, shout out to you, sir. We got contact and everything, and when I reached out to you, you were watching a pay-per-view, WWE pay-per-view, just like I was, as well. What is your take on the direction of WWE, and as a fan, what is your take on the brand split as well? Because now we're into this brand, the brand extension again. Basically, I believe it's round 2 of the brand extension. So, has this worked for you as a wrestling fan or as a WWE fan?
Absolutely, only because I liked the brand split when they first did it. And once they brought everything together, it just kind of made everything awkward. So I really appreciate the brand split because it gives more opportunities to more talent and kind of gives them a chance to, spread their wings, so to speak. Like with NXT, then you got Raw and Smackdown. I mean, I like the commingling a little bit. Like, I have to tell you how much, and I want to give a shout out to him because I'm actually friends with him. James Ellsworth has really I love him. He's a sweetheart. He's a complete gem, and I mean, to have a brand split and then have someone, it just kind of gives like a relevance to the WWE, you know? And to have someone like, even with Heath Slater, when he had the whole, I'm a free agent, I can go anywhere I want to go. Like little things like that kind of give an extra, connection, like a reminder saying that, we're all connected, but we're not. And it gives like that little friendly competition between all, I feel like NXT is a part of it as a brand. You have Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and the fact that they're all kind of mingling together, but not completely like immersed, where people are too confused and they're like, "What's going on? Who's what brand?" They're able to safely kind of keep all the superstars separate, and yet have some that are kind of in between, which kind of gives it a little variety. So I definitely enjoy the brand split. I really do, because it gives me a reason to watch SmackDown. It gives me a reason to watch Raw. It gives me a reason to immerse myself back in the product completely again.
And it gives SmackDown a new identity and a new dimension again, because up until that point, it was just basically Raw Part 2.
Yes, it was.
And it just needed, like it's saying, I mean, I have a different opinion on Mr. Ellsworth as well, but I will say this, okay? I will say this. I don't know if I could get into him challenging AJ Styles for the world title the past week. I just couldn't get into that and everything. And I know Dean Ambrose would get involved. It doesn't take a rocket science to work that out. He was going to get involved. But I don't know if you agree with this. It has helped the SmackDown brand itself.
It really has.
It has played a part in it, because I don't know about you, whether you agree with this or what's your opinion on this, but SmackDown's been smoking Raw, in my opinion.
They really have been. I honestly have been thoroughly entertained by SmackDown as of recently, which I'm happy about, because I really didn't watch SmackDown that much up until recently, up until the brand split.
Yeah.
Because I was always watching Raw. And the other time I would watch NXT or any of the other WWE programming, like the Edge and Christian show and Camp WWE and stuff. Those are like my favorites.
Breaking Ground.
And yes.
Love that show.
Yeah, they've been putting out really good shows, so it just like,
yeah,
I just didn't start watching SmackDown until like they did the brand split, and then all of a sudden you have like all these different talents finally like kind of showcasing themselves.
Don't misunderstand. Yeah, go on, continue what you said. Go finish what you're saying. Yeah.
Like they showcase like all these different talents
They
and
do.
bringing up the
Very
NXT
much so.
talents, so that people can kind of see that, you know, they're ready to be up there and kind of show themselves and show what they got to the main stage.
Yeah.
Even though I love NXT. I love the fact that it's all newcomers, you know, coming in, like
they do
Ember
well to keep
Moon.
that show fresh, man. I've noticed.
Yeah.
They do very well.
The fact that a lot of my friends are obsessed with Bobby Roode's theme song "Glorious." Oh God. I mean, I don't see the appeal of it, I guess. It doesn't, like, it gets stuck in my head, but like only for 2 seconds.
Oh, it can get stuck in your head. I think that's the appeal of it. I think that's definitely the appeal of it. Once you listen to it, it sticks in your head for about at least a day or so. It does. It definitely sticks appeal. But like I say, they do very well to keep that show fresh, because just when you think it's sliding away and everything, they being Triple H, find a way to put it back. And
they
make
just
it
bring
relevant.
in lots of great new talent.
Yeah, that's what they need to do mostly as well, because like I said, we all know at the end of the day, there's a lot of talent out there that are not getting their breaks, or maybe too scared to go to WWE. But that's when NXT's for at the end of the day. I mean, I was surprised when AJ Styles came to WWE. Not that I was surprised that he came to WWE, because I knew he'd come there eventually, you know, he'd had to eventually. But I was surprised that he didn't go to NXT, and he just jumped onto the main roster straight away. Which is easy anyway, because he doesn't need any like talent development or anything like that, because he is phenomenal. And I would imagine he's had most of that anyway in TNA. But I was surprised that he didn't go to NXT. And that's what NXT's for anyway. I mean, they have a lot of great talent on there. Even some of the cruiserweights, which I found as well, this new cruiserweight division. Most of them are on Raw as part of the division, but the majority of them are going on NXT as well to get further, you know, enhancement and further improvement as well. Guys
I noticed that with Sean Maluda.
Yeah, and Cedric Alexander too.
Yes.
Who I absolutely love. I'm sorry. That guy seriously got over with me in terms of his talent.
He's
and everything.
absolutely entertaining.
He's very good. I make it say again, another Ring of Honor guy.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's definitely got promise.
Yeah, definitely got promise, and thank God for Triple H signing him up after his match with.
Honestly, a lot of people can say what they want about Triple H, but I think Triple H is probably the best for business.
It is in terms of creativity.
About it.
I mean, there's all this talk about Vince McMahon stepping down, but whether you like Triple H or not, he's definitely got the mind for it.
Well, the thing is with Triple H that makes him different from Vince McMahon is the fact that he has experience in the ring.
Yes.
Like, Vince has been in the ring, but only, you know, later in his life.
Yeah.
So he doesn't, like, he only knows the business side of it. He's only seen one side of it. Triple H has been on both sides of it, so he knows exactly how things should be run, how you should book talent, how you should evaluate how you book talent, and how to make a good show work. And that's why NXT is really so successful.
And in terms of booking the talent as well, how to make that talent work.
Exactly.
In there as well, in terms of that direction, in terms of what direction to give them and make that direction they've got work for them as well. He seems to be doing that. Like I said, a lot of people have got over on NXT as well that you probably wouldn't think, first looking at them, you probably wouldn't think they could get over if they left depending on it or something. But when Triple H has got out of them, he's gave him that direction as well. Yeah. He's definitely gave him that direction as well to get over in that. But like I say, obviously we agree on SmackDown being that number one brand. At the moment, at least. NXT aside, of course. What has been, in your opinion, because I watch Raw, even though it's for 3 hours, but I still manage to find myself 3 hours and sit down and watch Monday Night Raw. And to me, Raw has been okay. But me sitting there as a fan, something has missed it. You know, something's not quite there. I mean, granted, they've got 3 hours to fill up. But something's not quite there. I mean, I don't know what your take is there. Where's Raw going wrong?
For me, I think they're trying too hard to be a little too controversial when SmackDown. For SmackDown, I feel like it's easy for them to be controversial. Like with The Miz when he cut that like infamous promo that had people talking and me talking. Dolph Ziggler and stuff, and that was all SmackDown. But then you don't see something like that with Raw. All you see is like Rusev fighting with Roman Reigns over dumb crap that's really not... Like, I feel like that's a useless kind of storyline. I mean, if you want Roman Reigns to get the belt, okay, that's fine, but don't, like, throw their wedding into it because it just really has no relevance to why he wants the belt unless, you know, he's trying to steal Lana at the same time. Then, okay, it's understandable. Like, hint at that. But they're not even hinting at something like that. They're just not making, like... They could easily... I'm sorry to say this because he's a really good-looking fellow, and he definitely kind of is more of a smooth operator than he is trying to act like the Rock. Like, if you're gonna really try and build a storyline, at least try to make it look like he's trying to hook up with Lana or something, or like trying to flirt with her or something. Like, because then it would just kind of make it more intriguing. Like, well, we know that they're married in real life, but Roman Reigns has a wife. Is he really trying to be this ballsy? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's a risk that the WWE should take, you know, considering everybody's personal lives. But if you really want to make that storyline entertaining and kind of give it a reason for a belt exchange, I feel like, you know, kind of really, like, go that extra mile. Like, SmackDown isn't even trying hard the way it seems. The way that they're pushing buttons, the way The Miz kind of went off on Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan just kind of had to walk out in the middle of the interview. Yeah. And, you know, the way Dolph Ziggler, like, literally looked like he was at tears. And I really believe he was at tears. Yeah. You know, as a wrestler who watches, I was really, literally emotionally invested, thinking that he was really crying.
I was emotionally,
really willing to put it on the line.
Understand? Yeah, I was emotionally invested when he had that when he cut the promo with leading into SummerSlam with him and Dean Ambrose on SmackDown, and then he kicks his head off.
Yeah.
After that, when he was dig down deep, one thing, and he just super kicks him out of nowhere, which was very good as well. And that's what SmackDown can do. And that's why SmackDown, I mean, I don't think Raw has that kind of a show, do they? Like a talking smack or anything like that. Maybe that's what Raw needs.
Yeah.
You know, compete with SmackDown. I mean, I love SmackDown. SmackDown has been hitting it for me. Would you agree that Raw needs to be 2 hours?
Yeah. I feel like it drags on too much when it's like, you know, 3 hours. I mean, I have classes at a certain time in between Raw, and during that 1 hour period where I'm just doing my schoolwork, I'm not really looking at the television, but when I do, I'm just like reminded why I'm focusing on my schoolwork. Because sometimes it's like not even entertaining, and it just breaks my heart. Yeah. Especially like with the women's matches, like they should be a lot better. Yeah, way a lot better.
Yeah, they are good, but you're right. They could be better as well. And they had, like I said, they had the main event match, which I didn't like, and it's probably the only Raw that I've hated, quite frankly. The main event match was based off what happened. I believe it was. I can't remember what pay-per-view it was. It was this year, definitely, where Clash of Champions. It was with I think that's where I caught you. When I reached out to you, I think that's what you were watching, the Clash of Champions pay-per-view when Jericho came out. interfered in the match and basically cost Seth Rollins the Universal title. And then the following night on Raw, instead of having something to fall out on that, like Seth Rollins coming out to maybe try and get revenge on Chris Jericho, or at least get a piece of Kevin Owens, or at least attempt to get a piece of Kevin Owens, the main event match of that show was Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho against Enzo and Big Cass. Now, I don't have nothing against Enzo and Big Cass, but did I really want to see that in the main event? No, I would have rather have saw Seth Rollins come out, at least get a slice of revenge. But Foley preventing that as well, you know, the angle with Foley preventing it, saying you're not fit to compete, and this, that, and the other. I hated that Raw, mate. I've actually enjoyed Raw after that as well, especially the one with Goldberg coming back. By the way,
yes,
what is your take on Goldberg's return? Because it's been long overdue. Since WWE 2K17 coming out, and he was coming to be the guy that you order or get when you order or pre-order the game. And then from that moment on, there was just rumor after rumor after rumor after rumor that he was going to be appearing on shows. And then he finally comes out. Don't get me wrong, it was the most awesome thing ever, because I never thought it'd happen. But I'm glad it's done. It seems that Brock Lesnar and Goldberg is a shoo-in now for Survivor Series. What's your take on the whole Goldberg returning?
Oh, that had to be one of the greatest things I ever, like, the fact that the way he came out, like, they really, and I gotta give the WWE credit, they really went back to their roots with the theatricality by kind of, like, giving Goldberg his, like, you know, infamous entrance. I forgot which pay-per-view it was where he comes out and he's, like, surrounded by security walking to the ring. That's what it reminded me of, that one particular pay-per-view. And I remember watching it with my fiance and my mom, and even my mom sat there and admitted, she goes, I'm getting chills watching this, Yasmin. Like, I'm really getting chills. And it made me feel good inside as a wrestling fan, because that's what Goldberg was known for. Like, he gave you chills when he walked out to the ring. And it was just him walking out to the ring before he even got into the ring that had the crowd, like, you know, pumped. And the fact that he walks through the back stage area and you see everybody from, like, the New Day and Dean Ambrose, like, you know, the new generations looking at him and seeing him like, yo, this is the dude. And seeing him come out and do his classic entrance with the pyrotechnics, and the fact that and this is something that people don't really realize, his real signature isn't just the pyrotechnics, but the fact that after the pyrotechnics are done, he inhales a bit of the smoke and then blows it out as soon as the smoke clears to remind you, I was just covered in fire, and then walks to the ring. That's what had me. Like, even my fiance was like, oh my God, I hope he, you know, inhales the smoke and blows it out. And he did exactly that. And we all went crazy for it, because that was, for me, a signature, you know, Goldberg moment where he comes out and he's, like, you know, dripping wet in his gear, and he has, like, the fire and the, you know, sparkles, like, raining down upon him. And then you see all that smoke that surrounds him. And he inhales it. And right before it clears, he blows it out. And it was just, like, the best thing to see in the world. Like, he was not afraid of anything.
Yeah. Did you see their first match?
Mm-hmm.
Brock Lesnar Goldberg at WrestleMania 20, because that's the reason for this match anyway, in my opinion. What was your take on that match as a fan?
I think at the time, both of them weren't they were both at their peak, but because it seemed more like a personal match than it was just, you know, for the entertainment of the crowd.
And both of them were leaving. Just to throw that in as well, both of them were leaving the company.
Yeah, exactly. So they didn't. I feel like they didn't really put as much as they should have put in. But then now, I guess because they got a second chance and they have another opportunity to kind of give it a second go, I feel like this time when they really do wrestle each other, they're gonna put on a better match than they did last time. Not that they didn't put on a good match, but I feel like this time it's gonna be a lot better because they have a second chance to do it right.
Yeah, they definitely got a second chance now to do it right and erase the clusterfuck, as many people call it, of what happened at WrestleMania 20.
Yep.
And like I say, both of them were leaving that match, and one of them was leaving because he didn't like the direction of where he was going in the company, and the other one was leaving for the NFL. Why Brock ever left for the NFL, I don't know, but anyway. We all know how that ended up. He ended up being UFC champion.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Goldberg said that, Brock, you're last. Not only are you next, you're last. Meaning, this is going to be a one-off. That's the hint I got. This is going to be a one-off match, one more match. Do you hope it's not? Because I like to see him one-on-one with Roman Reigns. If he still got it, maybe not on a full-time basis. Come back like maybe a Brock or maybe whoever else is coming back. But I just want to see him go one-on-one with Roman Reigns.
Honestly, I didn't think of that, but now that you bring it up, that actually sounds interesting, and I would
Battle of the
really
Spears.
like to see him against Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me like, and this is the thing that people don't seem to understand with the WWE, Roman Reigns, has no problem being in the ring. You saw his match with Brock Lesnar. He was laughing and smiling. Like, he made it seem like he was not afraid of Brock Lesnar, which is something a lot of these wrestlers, they'll sit there and say, oh, they'll cut promos. I'm not afraid of him. I can handle him. But you never really see any of them really laugh the way Roman Reigns just, like, openly laughed in his face and said, like, I'm not afraid of you.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. That was at WrestleMania. I'll never forget that. That guy took a beating.
He did.
He just smiled at him. He was like, yeah.
Like, you don't scare me.
You don't scare me, boy. Kind of thing. And that's what got him over with me. The fact that he took a beating, even though he's not really that over with the people. I mean, many people nowadays, me included, say the reason why he's getting booed out the building because he's been built like a John Cena is, and many people call him, including myself. I think I've dubbed him this, considering the direction he has gone and the way he's been used as John Cena 2.0. Obviously, he's a very different style to John Cena. I'm not denying that. It's in terms of his booking and the direction he's gone. Would you agree with that?
I think that not so much a John Cena 2.0, but like a Rock 2.0, because he's obviously related to The Rock, and a lot of people have put him on that expected pedestal, and I kind of feel bad because it's not that he can't do it, it's just he's doing it a different way, and people aren't understanding that, so they're being really quick to kind of boo Roman and make him feel like, oh, he's not good enough, he's definitely not. It's like he is, but you're not giving him a chance because you're expecting him to be like someone else instead of letting him be himself.
Yeah.
Like, he never said, he said it flat out, I'm not the bad guy, I'm not the good guy, I'm the guy. He never said what type of guy he was, but everybody assumed he was trying to be either like The Rock or John Cena. He's Roman Reigns. When you live this life, you're not living your life to be like someone else. You're living to be yourself. You don't want to be the next Lita or the next Trish Stratus or the next Rock or the next Hulk Hogan. You want to be the Trigger or the Lexa Rose or, the Caveman or the Mantequilla. Just like shout out to a couple of friends of mine. But you want to be just the person of who you are. You don't want to be like someone else. You don't want someone to say, oh yeah, you remind me of someone else. To me, that's kind of an insult, because I want to be able to hear, oh, you're like nothing I've never seen before. I don't want people to say you remind me of someone. I want people to be like, I've never seen someone like you before. Like, you are so different. You are so unique.
If you like the Wrestling Matters podcast, why not follow the Wrestling Matters podcast now on Twitter at WM Podcast for all professional wrestling news. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to part 5 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. And now I'm going to talk. Hope you guys enjoyed the Lexa Rose interview, by the way. More of that probably next week. Or maybe the week after. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But more of that next week. Yeah, guys. Yeah, it's a simple way now, guys, because I'm going to go into talk about Fear and Loathing 9, ICW. I hope ICW, specifically Mark Dallas, is listening to this as well. Now, Fear and Loathing 9 plus the Friday Night Fight Club live show that they did, which was pretty good. I'll review that either next week or the week after, guaranteed. But it was okay. I just have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with the pay-per-view. Great matches on there. Yes, Dallas has got 100% control back. No more Red Lightning. Yay! So, Red Lightning is gone. Jack Jester turned on Black Label, which I have to admit, I kind of thought was a little strange, but it worked, you know. Finn Balor was there as well as the special enforcer, but there was a few matches on there that caught my eye. Stevie Boy going over on BT, never thought that would happen. Great match, epic match, but I didn't think that would happen. Polo Promotions beating Team 3D the way they did. I have no problem with Polo Promotions winning the match. From what I saw in the match, it just seemed a little controversial. I don't think it was going to happen. I don't think it was meant to happen or meant to finish that way. That's what I got from it as well. And also, Kurt Angle tapping out to Joe Coffey. Yeah. Plus, Wolfgang retaining the championship as well due to a mistake from Trent Severin as well. But all in all, ICW over the weekend, Friday Night Fight Club, which was eventually live on Facebook. Thank God I got to watch the whole lot. Plus, eventually getting to watch Fear and Loathing 9. Now, I have no problem with that. I do have a problem with, is it Pravitzel Share or something? The site that ICW On Demand, not just ICW as well, Progress Wrestling, they use for their on-demand service. Now, ICW put Fear and Loathing 9 on the network, on that for live for the subscribers, which is, to me, it was like fucking Christmas. Same with the Friday Night Fight Club as well. But thankfully, the Friday Night Fight Club was on Facebook, so I got to see the whole show on that one as well. What I didn't like was half an hour going into it, I kept on getting this error. I had to tweet Pravitzel Share to look into it on 2 occasions, not just on Friday, but on Saturday as well, on the Sunday show as well. The whole thing was a joke, quite frankly. It was on Saturday night as well because, WCPW was on. I'll catch up with WCPW in my own time. But yeah, and if ICW is listening to this, please say you are listening to this. If you are, or anybody from ICW, especially you, Mark Dallas, you might want to look into that, because that's not cool for any ICW fan that's looking to get on the actual pay-per-view. Looking to watch the pay-per-view. You put, what is the point at the end of the day of putting something on on the on-demand service, a live airing of the show on the on-demand service for your subscribers, where the fucking site's a bag of shit? Because let's face it, it's shite. That's why it's calming down. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. The site is a load of shit, and it proved that them 2 nights. Putting something on the on-demand service, like something live, like ICW Fear and Loathing, causes your site to crash, and then you have to look into it, and you guys are not aware or not on the ball enough to look into that. You're not walking up to the point where, we might need to be on standby here in case some crashes happens. Common sense could tell you that. No, I can't complain too much because the thing got fixed eventually anyway. But, at the end of the day, it's just a complete waste of time. If ICW or even Progress Wrestling, they're going to put something on the actual thing, the actual site, the on-demand service, and it crashes like that, you're going to get a lot of complaints. You're going to get a lot of complaints. No matter what it is, where it is, how it is, you're going to get complaints. And that's not good for you. That's not good for your site. That's not good for your company. The last thing you want to do is go on Twitter and see a shit ton of complaints. And yeah, I was one complaining as well, not just to ICW or trying to let ICW and make them aware of the situation, but the tweets that I put out were mainly towards the website, because the website's on Twitter. But I was trying to make ICW aware of what was going down. People like Mark Dallas in there, because that's a piss take. I don't care what anyone says. I would be fuming if that happened. But then again, I'm not Mark Dallas, am I? So, but at the end of the day, I'd be fuming if that was me. I would be fuming. But all in all, the ICW weekend was phenomenal. It was great and it was fun to watch, despite the website's bullshit. But I got to watch it the next day and it was just great. ICW doing their thing, basically. Doing what they do as only they can do. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up part 5? Yeah, part 5 here. And I'll be back in part 6, the final part, with Not One. And I'll see if I can try and get it in. But I've got some top 10s from What Culture right after this. So stay tuned.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kinny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shubs.
Yes! Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final part of the Wrestling Matters podcast. Hope you guys are well. Hope you guys have enjoyed the podcast. And yeah, guys. Yeah. You know what? Let's do it. Ric Flar, top 10. But before we do that, guys, you've listened to this podcast on the Wrestling Matters channel, AJW Wrestling Matters on YouTube, Wrestling_Matters_podcast, SoundCloud, download it for free. Also, the Swerve Talk Network, like I say, Max Wrestling, Kitty Killer's Sunday Segway. Check out Sunday Segway TV as well. With Fame Black. By the way, Fame Black, if you listen to this, I'm looking to get you on. I will be in touch. I have been very busy as of lately, but I'll get you. I'll message you and all that, and we'll hook you up. Also, check out Evan McCabe, Offshoot Radio, and all that good stuff as well. You know what to do, guys. I know I say this a lot, but it is what it is. You gotta check it out. Keep checking it out, because it is good stuff, and you will not be disappointed. Like I said, big shout out to Mystery Island as well. Hope your show went well. Facebook.com/Back to the Island, guys. You know where it's at. Check it out. Any information, anything you need, you know what to do. Go on there, Facebook page, Facebook.com/Back to the Island, where all the information is needed. Also, shout out to all the partners, RFKW, Raging Falcon, OSW TV, and the list goes on. And yeah, we'll get into it right now, guys. 10 things WWE wants you to forget about Ric Flar. Oh joy, this ought to be good as well. So, 10 things Ric Flar wants you to, WWE wants you to forget about Ric Flar. Number 10, getting naked everywhere he went. Or getting naked all the time. Apparently he was on the train ride from hell where there was a plane ride from hell at one point as well, where he wore nothing but a robe and flashing the waitress, the air stewards. Also, at one point, I think he even looked up a steward's skirt as well. That's what I got from this. But the image of Ric Flar naked is an image that I never want to have in my mind. Ever. Good grief. Anyway, although he could be the next Donald Trump, I suppose. But anyway, moving on. Number 9, bleeding in the PG area. Good grief. This guy is well known for bleeding in the PG era. He's well known for bleeding full stop, quite frankly, and blading and all that. Because he likes to blade himself and, bleed, sweat, pay the price. That's where he got the motto. But I think one point he came back to WWE and he was in the PG era. And hell, at one point, I think they fined Batista $100,000 for bleeding in the PG era. I think that's what I got anyway. But there was a confrontation on a Raw episode at one point where he came face to face with Chris Jericho, and Chris Jericho beat him up, and he bladed during that segment as well. And I think he got away with it scot-free, to be honest with you. Number 8, he was Ring of Honor ambassador. That's right, he was Ring of Honor ambassador. All that retirement before he went to TNA and everything, he became ambassador of Ring of Honor, and they paid him well. But he turned up for shows. He didn't turn up for shows. Walked out of a show that he was paid to be at as well. And Kerry Silkin, the former owner of Ring of Honor, sued him unsuccessfully to the tune of $41,000, I believe. And at one point said he was going to go to Ric Flair's signing that he was doing and collect the money himself. And he said it on Twitter. So, yeah, I mean, it was at the end of the day. Number 7, setting records for WCW. Now, apparently he's the only person to draw 189 fans, and it wasn't in WWE. That's right. Saying he was the greatest heel draw of all time. And the 190,000 fans that he drew was as part of a show called Collision in Korea, which was co-produced by New Japan Pro Wrestling and WCW, and which saw, I believe it was Tatsuma Fujinami or Antonio Inoki was one of them, faced Ric Flair at that point. Like I said, it was co-produced, co-made by the two companies. And at the time, it was a big hit. You have to say, it was a huge hit. Number 6, his beef with Bret Hart. Now, these two have gone back and forth. They've ran up and down, ran their mouths off and everything. And, you know, it's some perpetuate stuff. You know, some stupid stuff. I mean, there was a book feud over their books and everything. The you know, shots were fired over the books and that. Just childish stuff. And I think they've patched things up right now, so which is a great thing at the end of the day. And the rest of his backstage feuds. Yeah, his backstage feuds that, you know, basically has been with everybody. I mean, let's give you a list. What culture bring up? Mick Foley. The feud that started over the book. They had a match in TNA, but they're now, you know, they're now friends. Bruno Sammartino as well. You know, they had beef as well, but they're now reconciled, now friends as well. Roddy Piper as well, even Roddy. Them two had a falling out, but they're now reconciled, and yes, thank God for that as well, because Piper's there. And also Shane Douglas, but the thing is, them two can't stand one another, and always Shane Douglas has referred to Ric Flair as Dick Flair. And yeah, number 5, the Bischoff bust-up. These two hated each other in WCW. I don't care what anyone says. They've now reconciled and everything, and there was all this feud going on in the year about 97, 98 for power and everything, suing one another. You know, Flair not turning up for a Thunder, going to his son's wrestling, even though he told Bischoff in advance and everything, a court hearing and that. And apparently it all came to blows in WWE, where they started talking about it, and then gone into a fight backstage in WWE where everybody had to pull them apart. So yeah, things heated up when they got to WWE, because, you know, Bischoff and that were general manager, but they're now friends and that. Yeah, the next one is wrestling in TNA. This guy was so in debt when he left WWE after that memorable retirement that he had to go back and wrestle again, and he had to wrestle, and he ended up wrestling for TNA, which was just the worst idea he's probably ever had in his life. Some of the stuff that he did in TNA, this wasn't good. And then the Foley feud continued in TNA with the last man standing match they had on Impact. Just thank God that they welcomed him back with open arms in WWE. That's all I got to say on that one. The next one is the 2K14 panel. He was drunk out of his mind, and he offended people on there as well. And hell, even Jim Ross got fired because of this, because he didn't control him. But what WWE failed to realize was this was about 6 months after his son's passing, and for Ric Flair to be in this situation wasn't the best of times. Sorry. This wasn't the best of times. Number 2, I believe this is number 2 or number 1, but it's next on the list anyway, was the Ric Flair segment on Raw. Yeah, this was the feud between Charlotte Flair, who were part of PCB at the time, the group, and Paige. Some geek came up with the idea, let's use the Ric Flair thing and all that. Let's use Ric Flair. But the sad thing is, Ric Flair didn't even know about it. Neither did his family. You know, it just goes to show what WWE would do for rating the buck. And you know what? That was number 1, and that was disgusting to be at number 1. But hell, it happened, and WWE wants you to forget about that. And that is WWE wanting you to forget about 10 things WWE wants you to forget about Ric Flair. I would probably say 9 things WWE wants you to forget about Ric Flair. Because let's face it, Ric Flair, the number 1 thing was not Ric Flair's fault. That was WWE's fault. Like I say, anything WWE does, or anything to have WWE come up with a good idea. Oh yeah, let's do this. Yeah, let's let's use that for an angle. What the fuck did you do? Would you do that? It's ridiculous. Anything for a storyline, man. I wouldn't go that far. It's just repulsive. But you know what, guys? I'm gonna risk it. Let's do it. I'm going to throw this one in for you as well. Why? Because I can, and I love you guys, and I love your support that you always give me. So let's do it. 10 best WWE Tag Team Champions ever, according to What Culture. This ought to be good. The 10 best WWE Tag Team Champions ever, according to What Culture. And like I said, Tag Team WWE Tag Team Champions, not anywhere else. I think it's WWE Tag Team Champions. So this ought to be good. Very interesting. So yeah, let's get into it. Number 10, ladies and gents, in this countdown, sees a tag team that many people probably will forget. Yeah, number 10 is Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit. Now, this was on Smackdown during the draft extension. The draft extension, the first one back in the day. These two couldn't stand one another. These literally couldn't stand one another. But this was basically like Cesaro and Sheamus. When they got together, they were a great team. Phenomenal team. Absolutely phenomenal. But now this team is probably forgotten now because of Chris Benoit and WWE and and stuff like that. They had some phenomenal matches. Matches with Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero and Chavo, Rey Mysterio and Edge at Survivor Series. I believe it was 02 back in the day. I mean, they won the tag belts back then. Defended them. Had some unbelievable matches with Edge and Rey Mysterio. It was just great, man. Number 9 was the Outlaws. The New Age Outlaws. You can't have the 10 best WWE Tag Team Champions ever without the Outlaws in, for crying out loud. If you do, then you are seriously retarded. Because these two teams, the Outlaws, this team is just phenomenal. It really was. Back in the day, they were the best tag team around. And I would dare say, members of DX2, by the way, I would probably dare say that these two, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, were the best tag team. I would probably say top 10 best tag teams ever in WWE. And you know what? They even came back and had a run with them stupid, god-awful bronze belts. Ugh. Number 8 was the British Bulldogs. Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith, the great Davey Boy Smith. And the psychopath, as many people call him, Dynamite Kid, from based on what you've been told and what you've read. But back in the day, these two were great, man. The great tag team. In the late 80s, mid-80s, late 80s. And they had some incredible matches with Bret Hart and the Hart Foundation as well. And that's what set the tone. If you watched Bret Hart's video back in the day, these were really, really good. That even says it himself. That's what put them two on the map. Hart Foundation and the British Bulldogs in WWE, their matches in WWE. Stampede Wrestling lived in WWE, guys. Number 7's the Hardy Boys. Hardys, it is what it is. Not the broken Hardys as you see to this very day, but back in the day when Hardys were having TLC matches with Dudley Boys, Team 3D, Edge and Christian, they changed the face of tag team wrestling, guys. You can't deny it. In WWE, they changed the face of tag team wrestling, full stop, quite frankly. Not just in WWE as well. The Valiant Brothers, number 6, I believe. This is interesting. Very interesting. Managed by Captain Lou. They were some good. They were a great team as well, man, back in the day. I don't know much about these guys. I would probably say they were the first Hollywood blondes. You would probably say, because they had the Hollywood hair. Blonde hair and everything like that. But yeah, a good team for the era back in the day, man. For the eras back in the day, a great team. One of my favourite tag teams that are compared to the Revival this very day, or the Revival are being compared to, and that is the original Brainbusters, Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Now, like I said, the Revival, many people see the Revival as these guys, and it's hard not to deny that. The Revival, the modern day Brainbusters. I mean, these two were tag teams in the NWA, with WCW, now before they came to WWE, managed by Bobby Heenan, World Tag Team Champions. Anderson and Blanchard were probably one of the greatest tag teams in wrestling history, not just in WWE's history. They had great feuds with Demolition, incredible matches at SummerSlam with Hart Foundation, and yeah, I think their legacy lives on through the Revival, man. And if you haven't checked out the Revival match with DIY at TakeOver, go and do it. 2 out of 3 falls. You'll be in for a treat, let me tell you. Next one is Edge and Christian, one of the greatest tag teams, if not the greatest tag teams of all time. Reek of awesomeness, set the standards for ladder matches and TLCs, feuded with one another, but they were just great. Multi-time tag team champions. I lost count after 5, but I believe it was 9 times. I might be wrong, but it's somewhere around about that figure, or double figures. They had great feuds, great rivalries, just beautiful. And now they've got their own show on the network, the Edge and Christian show as well. So yeah. Next is the Dudley Boys, the modern day Road Warriors. Everywhere these guys have been, they have been tag team champions, whether it's in TNA, whether it's in New Japan, whether it's ECW. They even held the WCW tag team belts in the Alliance era. They haven't been to, they never wrestled in WCW. They just held the belts in the Alliance era as well. And WWE World Tag Team Champions, WWE World Tag Team Champions, World Tag Team Championships, as well, TNA Tag Team titles, ECW Tag Team Champions, NWA Tag Team Champions when it was, I think it was when it was a part of TNA, IWGP Tag Team Champions as well, and WCW as well, but like I say, in the Alliance era. Everywhere they went, man, they were Tag Team Champions. The modern day Road Warriors. That's all they were, because Road Warriors went everywhere, won the belts. They went everywhere, won the belts. I think the Road Warriors era was a little different to the Dudleys, but I still put them on there despite what Animal says. Next is the Hart Foundation, the original Hart Foundation of the group, the tag team, Bret and the Anvil. They won their first tag team belts off the British Bulldogs back in the day, managed by Jimmy Hart at the time. But yeah, these guys went on, man. I mean, this would set the standard for Bret Hart to break away eventually and become a singles wrestler as well. Became the tag team champions. They had matches, like I said, with the Brainbusters, had matches with LOD, Rockers, the list goes on and on. They were just great, man. One of my favourite tag teams of all time. Next is Demolition. I believe this is number 2. Some say these guys were rip-offs of the Road Warriors, and yeah, they were, because they were this is when, but they came around when Vince McMahon couldn't get his hands on the Road Warriors, and hell, they even brought Crush in as well as the third member, like a Freebird kind of thing, vibe to it, and they did very well, man. They did very well. 478 days as champions, and no doubt that will probably get beaten by New Day. So yeah, it was just good stuff, man. They're the best. They were the best teams. And then the Road Warriors came along and it all went down to pop. Because like I said, Demolition were the tag team that Vince created because he couldn't get his hands on the Road Warriors. And then they brought the Road Warriors in. It was just as simple as that. And that about wraps that up, guys. 10 best WWE tag team champions. I'm a little pissed off that the Road Warriors wasn't in there. But yeah, I can't argue with it. It is what it is at the end of the day. So that about wraps it up for the podcast, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. I think the podcast next week might be a little different because Michael Larkin, I'm going to be doing something with Michael Larkin this week, so I haven't decided what I'm going to do for the podcast next week, whether it's going to be a format or we're just going to have Michael Larkin come on and talk, because we talk wrestling anyway, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. I'll see what I feel like during the week and see what happens then. But tune in next time, guys, for episode 140 and for episode 139 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. Thank you so much for listening. It has been an absolute pleasure. And until next time, Wrestling Matters, you know where it's at. Peace out.
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change. Professional wrestling, this is it. This is us standing up. Yes, 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 yes. That's 13-14! Naked till death!
Cena, I am the best in the world.
Cause that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so.